Hello everybody, welcome back to G Views. I'm a 21-year-old cisgendered white girl who loves talking about movies and TV. Now for today's G View, I am going to be talking about the 2002 Steven Spielberg movie, Minority Report. And you guys may be wondering, why is she talking about this movie? Like, this is really random, like maybe you haven't heard about it. Well, we have just got new Sky fitted into our TVs and the Sky is not working, so I can't watch movies on TV and I couldn't be bothered to open up my laptop. So I went through my old DVDs, yes, DVDs still a thing, and I found Minority Report and I was like, ooh, I was like, Minority Report or watch Shrek for the millionth time? I'll watch Minority Report. So I'd never seen this movie before and I love talking about movies I've never seen. Of course I've reviewed like Scary Movie and I've also reviewed Scooby-Doo, movies I love and have watched so many times. But I really want to talk about this movie. It stars Tom Cruise and I don't know how we feel about Tom Cruise. I feel like he's really weird, like Scientology and like buying wives. But this is not that kind of video. So, Minority Report, directed by Steven Spielberg. I feel like Steven Spielberg was like at the height of his powers, like in their 80s and 90s with, I don't know when, no, Jaws came out way earlier than that. But you know, E.T. and Jurassic Park, Minority Report, and kind of these movies which are like classics. And now he does films like BFG. He needs to get back into kind of this kind of vibe of film with Minority Report. They're kind of sci-fi, future, darker films rather than the family films, because I feel like family movies now are a lot more different. I feel like they're more like superhero movies and Star Wars rather than like what you got with like the Goonies or with E.T. It's just movie industry's changed a lot. So this movie, introduction, first thing I see is that it is extremely cool toned. So what that means is that the colour palette for this movie is grey and blue. It just looks extremely gloomy, extremely kind of grey and misty, and kind of everything seems wet. Like it's just constantly raining and it's kind of miserable. And I quite enjoyed the style. It was a bit dark at times. I would quite like a bit of variety. But I kind of represented the kind of pathetic fallacy of what was going on. The overall plot of this movie is that Tom Cruise is a guy who works for this organization which can predict the future. Like there are three special individuals who have been kind of injected with loads of things when they were younger. They're kind of experiments and they can see when future murders are going to happen. And Tom Cruise and his team, they are kind of well, not secret task force, but a task force which could be implemented federally into the whole of the United States, which then sees, like it visualizes when these murders are going to take place, and then they go and arrest the murderers before they commit the murders, and then they then imprison them for the murders they have not committed but would have committed if they were not there. Got it? So at the beginning I was extremely confused. He was on Final Cut Pro, he was like going through and zooming, Tom Cruise was looking, he was editing, and I was like, this is me editing my G Views, like going in, taking snippets out, finding where the house is so he can easily get there. And it's kind of a really cool concept, and it looks into the infringements of your rights and your freedoms. Like you technically haven't committed a murder but you are going to, and then you're imprisoned for it, and it's like kind of crazy. And there's these three, they're humans but they obviously have had injections in them, and they're like in this big pool of water, and Agatha is like the main, like the most powerful one. And this film is like full of twists and turns because Tom Cruise lost his son, and that was kind of one of the overarching questions I had for this movie was, is Tom Cruise's son alive? Because the main plot is that one of them predicts that Tom Cruise is going to kill someone, this guy who he's never met before, and he doesn't recognize the name, and so he is then hunted by his former friends and his former co-workers, and he then captures Agatha, who is one of the cyborg people. She's not a cyborg, but I call her a cyborg. And yeah, he captures her, and he wants to know what the hell has happened. And the Minority Report is a phrase termed when you can predict your own future. So when you can change your own future. For example, he was a Minority Report because he didn't actually kill the guy then, the time he was supposed to. So that's kind of what Minority Report is. I feel like I'm describing this really bad. But this film has got so many twists and turns. Like, Colin Farrell is kind of presented as the antagonist to Tom Cruise protagonist, and then Colin Farrell, around 3/4 of the way in, is shot dead by Christopher Plummer, who is Tom Cruise's boss, and you're kind of like, he is like the friend of Tom Cruise, but he was the one who started everything, and in order for his system to work, he had to murder Agatha's mother, who was like the first murder. And he's called a John Doe, where like obviously you don't know the real name of the person, and he was really clever because although his system caught the assassin who Christopher Plummer had implemented, Christopher Plummer then took his place of the assassin and killed her anyway. And it was really interesting because I was like, oh my god, I'm finding this so confusing, I'm not understanding this. But I did understand it, and I did get into it a lot. I was like, this is 2.5 hours movie, it's really long. But I really enjoyed it because it's all set in the future, and there's really good CGI actually for 2002. Obviously some of it's a bit dodgy, but they use really cool future technologies for weapons. They have jetpacks, and it doesn't look super silly. It doesn't look unbelievable. And I really was kind of engulfed in this world. It made me really not want to be in the future. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the acting. Tom Cruise is actually pretty good in this movie. I don't think he's a bad actor. I just feel like he plays very similar roles in most of his movies. I just kind of see his cringy personal life and who he is as a human being. And yeah, it kind of gets engulfed in his acting, but he was actually really good in this role. Agatha is played by the girl from Napoleon Dynamite. Don't know the actress's name, I will put her on the screen. She was really good as well. Yeah, I think the acting was good. Colin Farrell's, like, his character, he was like alright. It was a shock when he got shot. I think that was his purpose. I honestly thought the runtime was pretty good, and there was like some really weird elements, like Poison Ivy, an old Poison Ivy turns up, and she's got like these plants, and they're like Harry Potter, and they're all alive, and I'm like, what? Like, now plants can come alive, and she then kisses Tom Cruise, and she's like really old, and I'm like, you are Poison Ivy. I honestly was pleasantly surprised. The twists, there was really good action scenes. Some of the sound effects were ridiculous, like punch, but like really obvious punch, like it was just ridiculous. But I really thought it was a very inventive film, not super predictable. And yeah, I'd really recommend this movie. I would probably give it a 8 out of 10 just because I don't think I'd rewatch it again. Rewatchability is a huge thing for me because I may super love a film, but if I'm never going to watch it, then it's going to be a bit lower down. Anyway guys, if you liked this GV, make sure to give it a like and subscribe. Make sure to comment down below if you have any TV or films you want me to GView. You know, I always just GView kind of films I want to watch, or TV shows. Obviously TV shows are a bit longer. I'm currently watching Archer at the moment because I just finished Rick and Morty. which I love Rick and Morty. Watch that. I didn't want to do a GV on it because I'd just be like, you know, I'd just be praising the show. But yeah, make sure to look at the description box for my Instagram, my Twitter, and also my recent GV, which was Rise of Skywalker with my friend Carmen, which is a really fun GV we did. And yeah, guys, I hope you're staying safe, and I will see you soon.